In today's video, I'll be going over my best aimbot sensitivity settings as well as talking about my best control scheme and HUD layout that I like to use to play inside of Warzone Mobile. This will give you guys an inside synopsis on how I like to approach and play the game, specifically when it comes to Verdansk, as well as just playing fast or methodically slow or just tactically. Using these settings will make you guys the ultimate superior Warzone Mobile player. Without wasting any more of your guys' time, let's get on straight into the video. All right, guys, so starting off with the overview, that includes my controls with the weapon trigger and the automations. Just to take note of, for the first thing, I will go ahead and go over my HUD at the very end of this video. So starting off with the weapon trigger, if we just go ahead and tap on, the title of it, this is fire weapons with buttons. Obviously, we want that to be manual fire. I like to play weapon triggers with manual fire, obviously. And then for automations, I have that with off. So if you see here, automations play without automation features. And the purpose of this is that I want to be able to pick up the ground loot that I want to personally pick up. I don't want to just automatically pick up ground loot that I don't want, especially if it's going to be a burst weapon or picking up a gun that's going to actually put me at a negative advantage in the beginning of a game when I'm trying to fight somebody. So it's always nice to be able to pick what you want off the ground instead of just automatically getting it. But I know for a lot of people that playing with, automations turned on, it definitely saves you a lot of time when you're trying to run over someone's body and collect stun grenades and things of that nature, and just sort of like tactical and lethal equipment and, any gun in general. But me personally, I play with off. Moving on to the gameplay and talking about sort of like the movement. My sprint to stand, I have that on. The ADS button allows rotation and fire button allows for rotation. So essentially, I have these two settings off. And essentially what this is basically whenever you, if you're playing claw and if you have your index finger on your fire button and when you're moving, when your index finger is slightly moving, it'll actually affect your aim, and you actually don't want that to happen. So when you're actually clicking the ADS button with your index fingers or the fire button, you do not want that to affect your aim. You do not want that to be able to case. So this is actually negative. So you want to make sure you have both these settings off. And like I said, you can just sort of just click on these to see what you get, like while crouched or prone. Using the auto move forward button makes the player immediately stand up to sprint. So you can actually click on these and it'll actually tell you what it does. Allows camera control when holding this button. Definitely don't want that, and definitely don't want this. So you can actually click on these and it will tell you sort of what the settings are about. Obviously, for the weapon mount movement exit, we have that turned on. This, basically says that it chooses if movement with the virtual stick should make the player exit the weapon mount, which is actually very useful to have, because if you're in specific situations where when you're mounting and trying to get multiple kills, and then if somebody's coming behind you, and if you hear somebody, you want to be able to get out of that mount very quickly just by, moving your joystick up and down. So that's going to be very useful. The weapon mount exit delay, I have it onto medium. You can change this from short, medium to long, but medium is actually the perfect motion because you don't want to exit out the mount too quickly by accident, and you also don't want to exit the mount while it's taking forever to do it. You don't want the animation to take so long, so having it on medium is actually the perfect medium balance for it, and it works perfectly for me, but obviously it's personal preference. And I have always sprint turned on because there's not going to be really a situation where you're walking a lot, and due to the fact that how chaotic Verdansk is at the moment with everyone throwing lethals, tacticals, it's pretty easy to hear somebody. People don't really usually walk that much, and normally if I am going to walk, I'm going to crouch or I'm going to pre-aim in and then I'm going to move forward, and that's going to keep me from staying silent. But as always, sprint immediately when moving forward. Threshold to sprint becomes the minimum, so I like that. So moving on to the combat, for the weapon trigger, obviously that's going to be manual fire. Auto fire on objects, I have that on custom, and for vehicles, I have it on enemy only. The auto range limiter, I have that off. If you don't know what this is, it's basically fire weapons automatically at targets in range only. We have that off, obviously, because we don't want our weapons to fire automatically at a target. Single shot fire behavior, I have that on tap. Aim down sights when firing, I find this really useful. I have this on personally. I know a lot of people prefer to manually ADS in themselves. And like a lot of people are going to be asking me, how do you hip fire? Like, how does that work? Well, basically all you have to do in order to hip fire, you basically have to tap the ADS button. And this is something that I've played with in previous shooters, and I find this really helpful because I want to do the advanced movement mechanics like snaking and doing all kinds of, movement mechanics, dolphin diving, and be able to, ADS very quickly. This is going to allow me to do that. And I can also, like I said, pre-aim and hold down sights. So it's still really good. Obviously, aim down sights when firing, I have that on as well. Snap ADS fire button to finger, we have that off because I do not want to place my index finger somewhere on the screen and then my fire button is going to go to that location. I definitely don't want that to happen. And obviously for aim down sights behavior, you want that to be on toggle, so whenever you're pressing the ADS button, that's going to be able to, put you in the ADS function. Focus behavior, I have that on. I have that on auto, actually. Basically, what this does is focus automatically with ADS. So whenever you're ADSing down sights, your character model is going to focus a little bit more on the target. And, you can turn this, having it on toggle or hold, but I think having it on auto is the perfect setting because it's automatically going to focus the ADS in for you, especially when you're using sights and things of that nature. Moving on to interactions, obviously sprinting door bash, whenever you approach a door, when you're running towards it, you want to bash it open. Makes sense. So for force reload, you want to have it on sprint only. This just helps a lot with when it comes to reloading, cannot be interrupted during sprint, which obviously this is something we want to do. Force equipping armor, we have that turned off, but we have equipping all armor plates turned on. So whenever I am equipping all my armor plates, it's going to equip all of them, and then I can actually stop it if I want to. So you definitely don't want to have force equipping armor on, because if you're in a gunfight scenario and you're trying to heal up and you're trying to cancel it and shoot, you won't be able to do that, and that's going to cause you to die. So for vehicle, I like it on stick. I like to use the joystick when driving. I know a lot of people prefer the arrows, but the arrows are not really that good in my personal opinion. But that's just my view of it. If you want to use arrows, go ahead, but I like it on stick. Gyroscope, I don't play with gyroscope. I have that turned off, and obviously me personally, I don't play with a controller at all. So there's no reason for me to do that because it's absolutely, I'm a mobile gamer, and I prefer to play with my fingers on my screen. Obviously, invert vertical look off. We got flip. Yeah, so everything's off. Moving on to the interface controls. When it comes to combat, I have my left fire display button on. Fire buttons while auto fire, we have that off. I like to have the ammo counter display integrated whenever I'm switching weapons. So if you just click on this, it'll tell you display ammo count within the weapon slots themselves. And obviously, we have the same thing for multiplayer. Hit marker display, I have it on, obviously, because I need to be able to see if I'm actually, hitting my shots, right? Like, there's no reason why you would not want to have that on. Hit marker size, I have it on normal. I know a lot of people prefer small, but for me, normal is actually very good, just so that way I can actually see, like, if my shots are registering. And you can obviously put this to small or large, but definitely don't put it on large, because then it's going to intrude with your sights. And if you're, especially when you're using iron sights on certain weapons, you need to be able to actually see your enemies when you're shooting at them. And then you can also change the hit marker transparency, but obviously you want to leave that at 1. You don't really want to put that lower than that. For the movement, auto sprint lock, I have that off. We don't want that. I don't want to be able to, automatically sprint while, moving my joystick forward. It's kind of annoying to do that. Plus, it messes up with some of my movement techniques in the game. Change stance. This is basically tap, stance to crouch or hold to prone. I have that to merge because it's a lot better. I don't really want to have a lot of buttons on my screen. I don't want to have a separate dolphin dive button or a proning button. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous because we want to make it more simple. And plus, I don't want to have more fingers to do more things, and I don't want my current 4-finger claw setup to do way more than it needs to. And for me, like I said, these settings work fine for me. Slide trigger on stance button, I have that on tap. So whenever you're sprinting forward, you just click the crouch button once, you'll slide. That's obviously a no-brainer. Fixed joystick, I prefer to have that on. I know a lot of people are kind of 50-50 on this, but I prefer not my joystick to move at all because I place my thumb at the exact same location every single time, 100%. I don't ever miss it. So there's no reason for me to, have my joystick be moving around on my screen whenever I place my thumbs on different direction, because my thumb doesn't do that. So obviously, movement joystick is fixed on screen. I don't play with any invert camera, horizontal or vertical settings, so I have those off. My resupply alerts are on, so whenever I need a resupply alert or I need a reload cancel alert, I have those on. You can turn those off if those get annoying for you, but I have those on because they're not really that much of an annoyance. And tutorials, obviously, we're not noobs, right? Like, we're obviously pretty well inept players. We can actually figure things out on our own. So we're going to obviously have in-game tutorial tooltips off. And like I said, this is just, something that you don't need. If you do have this on, I'm going to question you. But at the end of the day, you do you. So moving on to the sensitivity controls, right? The aim sensitivity. I play with a horizontal multiplier of 68 due to the fact that, I play with finger sleeves, and for me, I like the ability to snap onto people and just sort of flick very easily. So this helps me a lot with that, especially with the vertical multiplier. Notice that I keep it the same. So if my horizontal multiplier is 68, my vertical multiplier is 0.68. And so that just helps scales the balance whenever I'm looking up vertically or horizontally. So it's the same sensitivity across when I'm aiming down to my sights. And controller sensitivity, I don't play with that at all. So I just keep it at 1 because it's the lowest you can go. And for ADS sensitivity, the global ADS sensitivity multiplier is very important because it's basically, like I said, it's basically the value that's going to determine how fast your sense is going to move when you do flicks. So basically think about it as aim acceleration in the game. So I keep mine at 3.1. 3.1 is absolutely perfect. I'm able to flick very nicely. I'm able to accelerate my sensitivity with slight motion of my thumb just moving across the screen, which I really like. Obviously, you are going to need to experiment with this. Keep in mind, I do play on an iPad Pro, so for me, it's going to be a little bit different. Like I said, everyone's sensitivity, and the feeling of it and the feeling of the glass and whether you're playing with thumb sleeves or not, it's going to be very different. So I'd highly recommend, like I said, if you do play on a tablet or you do, like I said, use finger sleeves, you can definitely try out the sensitivity for yourself and see how you like it. It is pretty fast. I will give you a warning on that due to the fact that I like to play with a really fast sense because, like I said, people in Warzone Mobile are moving all over the place. They reposition a lot. Dolphin diving, a lot of people are taking advantage of that movement mechanic to reposition. And for me, it's very important for me to lock onto those people that are dolphin diving because, like I said, that's really the only fast movement mechanic you can do. And sliding isn't really much of a meta right now at this point. So you want to be able to, catch on to those people and really get your aim to the point where you can really flick onto someone who's repositioning themselves with the dolphin dive. And then obviously for the ADS sensitivity, sensitivity per zoom. If you were to turn this off, you would have to adjust every single 2x, 4x, 3x scopes for every single, and I don't do that. I like to keep everything the same, so I just turn that off, but you can have that on if that's something that you need to do. And obviously for the ADS sensitivity transition timing, I keep it on gradual. You can change this between instant and after zoom, but gradual is the best one for me because I don't want my sensitivity, flying all over the place when I'm ADSing in. So this allows the sensitivity to slowly build up as I'm engaging in my ADS functionality while I'm shooting. And it's very easy to control. It's very fluid and it's very smooth as well. I absolutely love this. I think this is probably the best sensitivity transition timing for ADS that you can actually use. But like I said, it's personal preference and it's all about how you like to play and how you want to control your ADS functionality in the game. So going towards the very end, we're going to go take a look at my HUD. Obviously, just taking a look at my HUD, it's a 4-finger HUD setup, right? So this is just something that I like to use. As you can see, I have my fire button towards the right. So I shoot with my right index finger. I aim with my right thumb as well. And as you can see, I have my execution button, my buttstock button, as well as picking up guns, opening up doors, changing weapons, throwing my tacticals and lethals, changing place and reloading. I mean, I do everything with my thumb. So when I'm aiming, it just makes sense to kind of do that. So it's kind of like in a triangular motion and a 90 degrees angle towards the right side. And then obviously, as you can see here, my joystick, my left thumb is on my joystick. My left index finger does crazy things, right? It does the ADSing, it does the crouch, the slide, the prone, the dolphin dive, the tack sprinting, the jumping, and also holding down the breath, and then as well as mounting as well. So my left index finger does a lot. So playing 4-finger claw in this setup is actually really good. And this is going to be my same HUD for multiplayer as well. It does not look any different than this. So like I said, feel free to use it. I think this is probably the cleanest HUDs you can use in the game if you do play 4-finger on a tablet. On a phone, I actually have this very similarly on my phone as well. It looks the exact same. There's really no difference. You just got to adjust to the small screen. So if you're wondering if you can use this HUD on phone, or you can use any of the sensitivity settings that I gave you and other control settings for combat vehicles and things of that nature, it's all good for phone. Like I said, you're just going to have to adjust some of the values and see what you can do to really adjust for that small screen real estate. But obviously, if you're playing on an iPad, the screen real estate is unbelievably good, and you have a lot to work with. So that is going to be it for the overall my sensitivity, my controls, my values, and sort of my overall thinking and sort of my take on how I like to play the game in general. And like I said, if you guys have made it this far towards the end of the video, please go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And this has been your boy Vayner, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.